got some plaster ceilings to take down. Let's do it. Forgot my hammer. Saving some lath, but a lot of the lath has got to go. That was by far the dirtiest job I've had to do so far. So this is where we're at in this room. You can see the chimney up there. That's going to be the next big project, to get the top of the chimney out on the second floor, and all the way down at the base, the chimney out. That'll probably take me several weeks. And then we got to get this ceiling out as well. A little smaller than last one, and of course a lot of demo left in here. Got to get the whole ceiling out, got to get all the plaster out, all the fixtures out, so we got a whole lot of work. I feel like I look like an old chimney sweeper. There's just all kinds of dust accumulated at the top of the ceiling that just rains down on you. Look at my arms too, just coated in this stuff. So yeah, the first thing is I definitely want to do what we can to keep this open.
So the idea is the cantilever would come out here, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
much
essentially.
Align with the window, align with the edge of the door, align with this beam.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm open to exploring the idea too of the full cantilever, replacing all these too. I think I want to
So
keep
then
them,
that would cantilever the whole thing?
Yeah, this whole width, essentially. That's like a plan B. I already submitted zoning just for this section, so that's probably what I'm gonna do, but just to think about what it would look like to do this section too.
Yeah. Can you remind me, how far was your neighbor going back on there?
All the way. Yeah, they're going, actually even further. They're building the back section 2 stories up and cantilevering that as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I figured just because this area of joist needs to be replaced anyway, it makes sense to just do the cantilever there. The one option in my plans was to sister it on the right side, and then have a new header that drops below the existing and probably bolt it to the existing or something. But you could also just do a column to support it on both sides, essentially.
Yeah, but then we have to pick it up from below though. That's the only issue.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think I want to do a stud wall in the basement so I can cut that header to get some headroom. And then the alternative, like you were saying, is I guess to the left side, and then you need to reattach the header from the chimney.
Well, I didn't realize, I thought the window might have been over.
Well, this is all going to be rebuilt. So like I was planning to actually move the window over here anyway.
Okay. All right.
So imagine this is a new stud wall.
It looked in the plan like this window was a little bit more over, but I just assumed this was still existing. But I guess the issue, you know, if we were to flat out replace this stuff, is how do we support the stair in the meantime, right? Because the stair is connected either to this header or to this header, right? So if either of these get replaced, we have to hold this up.
Yeah, and that's part of why I liked keeping this beam in place and either doing something new on the left or right of it so that the stair can stay supported.
So again, like we were holding this in a little bit this way, right? And the plan was to put something on the inside the way you had drawn it up. The issue is that the whole 2-story cantilever above is most likely going to be sitting on this structure here, right? Like it's not like it's going to be supported at each floor, right? So the wall that comes out this way is going to be sitting on top of the cantilever here, right?
Yeah.
So this beam will be feeling a little bit heavier of a load than you know some of this.
But
right?
you can just pack that out with 2x6, right?
Well, we can, but what I don't want to do is then come back and connect something that has a heavy load onto this existing header here.
Yeah, and that's where trying to just add a new header, you know, on the inside of that beam, and then how you support that is the question.
Right, because if we put a new header this way, it can't get through this beam, right? Which means
and then you'd end up with like a column right here, and you'd have to rework the basement door. Or if this beam comes out, then you need to figure out the support of that header and the temporary support of the stairs.
I almost think it would be easier if we could temporarily support the stair, but the issue is we can't really see how it's exactly connected, right? Because all this stuff is here. It's just not easy, you know? And not to say that things have to be easy to do them, you know? There's just, I shouldn't say easy, there's just not a good way to do this.
If the city would let me get away with replacing this beam, or you could even cut it.
Well, I think they would. I think they would, as long as you're not touching the stair, I think it'd be fine.
As long as the stair is not framed into that.
Even if we did, right? Like we could replace this beam, we could replace this beam, just as long as we're not touching, we'd have to temporarily support the stair, but we're not modifying the stair itself, we're modifying the stair support, right? So that would be the way to do it if we can. I just don't know if we can. I don't know if your contractor is going to be able to temporarily support the stair while we rip the rest of this stuff out.
Yeah, and the top tread of the stair is basically going up onto this header. So like I think the top tread would have to be replaced or something, and then you run into issues. So what if you build out the joist to the left side of this beam, maybe cut what's here, or you could just leave it, I guess. Or I guess why you can't leave it is if you have a beam here, you'd want a header, like another header adjacent to the existing one, that would have to go through that beam, so you'd cut that. And then you could get the post over here, because it's supporting the end of the header and the new joist to the left of that beam.
Yeah, I guess also you put the post underneath this header here. We put the new header on the outside. The new header runs to the wall. This sits on top of, we're gonna have to replace this, right? So this, if this and this sits on top of a post. Then we actually don't need a post at all, right? Because this existing header stays framed into this beam. The end of this beam gets framed into this new header that comes out in front of it. The new header, no, that works. Okay, yeah, that works.
Yeah, because the new header's going into new framing.
Yeah.
That's going all the way across.
That works. We can do that.
I wanted to share the behind the scenes of the actual discussion with the structural engineer, but I understand if it was kind of hard to follow because you weren't exactly looking at the same things we were looking at and the sketches that Ed was doing. So I made these 3D visualizations to try to explain what the process will be. So the main challenge is the existing stair header is less than 6 inches deep, and the new cantilever joists are probably going to be 2x10s, and you can't have a 2x10 going into a header that is shallower than the joists. And it's challenging to just replace all of the floor framing while keeping the stair in place because we don't really know how that stair is supported on the existing framing. So the first step is going to be building a temporary wall that's going to support the joists I want to keep in the back section of the wood part of the house. I want to keep these just so I can expose them in the kitchen and just maintain a little bit of that original character and the original materials of the home. Once that's supported, we can tear down pretty much everything else, the chimney of course coming down, and I wish I could keep some of the second floor framing because it's in decent shape, but because all of the first floor is rotted and termite damaged, there's kind of no way to replace that without taking off the second floor too. Now zooming into the stair header situation, we're gonna remove certain parts of the existing framing, and there's gonna be some temporary supporting that's gonna have to happen there. That'll make room to install a new double 2x10 that's kind of gonna be the back edge of the cantilever. Then we can use that to support a new header that's just gonna be adjacent to the existing header, so now the existing one isn't really taking much load, and we have a new 2x10 or double 2x10 header that can take the cantilever joists. Now zooming back out, to build our new wall, we're gonna need to pour some concrete, and this does a couple things. For one, we can add J-bolts into the wet concrete that'll act as anchors to the sill plate, and two, we can elevate this sill plate up from grade level to try to separate it a little bit from the moisture that's been causing issues. Then we can build our new 2x6 wall and remove the temporary support for those back joists. And now the cantilevered section of joists have a new header to frame into and a good solid 2x6 wall to sit on top of as they cantilever out about 4 feet to extend these bathrooms. Now a quick update on timeline. So I have my zoning permit submitted with the changes I proposed here. And I also paid the structural engineer to do revisions on the drawings, and he'll have those by kind of the end of next week. And in the meantime, I'm also going to be revising my architectural drawings. I need to do a detail of the new concrete, the new sill plate, the new wall, a detail of the cantilever and the fire protection involved with that. So hopefully the zoning will be done. We can submit for the new permit by the end of next week, and then maybe we'll hear back a week after that. And in the meantime, I also need to work on my project budget and the schedule and ordering windows and all the stuff that comes along with GCing this project myself. And I also need to be coordinating with a framing subcontractor to make sure they're going to be ready to start right when the permits are complete. I want to pop in to give you a little update on the nail situation. So as you may know, when anyone orders a Rowhome print of mine, I also include a rusty nail that dates back at least to 1875. I just love the idea that these nails have been in my house in Philadelphia for the past 150 years, just quietly holding up the plaster, and then all of a sudden I came along and extracted them and just shipped them across the entire world. So let's see where some of these nails ended up. They've gone to 19 different states in the USA, and also a few up in Canada here. And then I just love the international ones too. There's a nail on its way to Australia. There's a few nails going over to the United Kingdom. There's a nail going to the Netherlands. By the time I'm finished with this house, I'm sure I'm gonna salvage a lot more materials, and I hope I can continue just distributing it across the country for no reason other than, I don't know, it's a cool part of the house's story now. So with that, a huge thanks to every one of these dots on the map. Every dot just represents an awesome person that found the project through YouTube and wanted to support what I'm doing here. So I really do appreciate it. Thanks. All right, we're right near the Rittenhouse neighborhood. Wanted to introduce you to Andrew with Axe Builders. Last video I kind of mentioned that I'm going to be having good help on the general contracting side. So Andrew, what do we have here?
Sitting at one of our projects, 313 South Smedley in Rittenhouse Square. This is a historic single family house.
Really, this is just an opportunity to see like other cool old properties in Philadelphia, and also get a look into Axe Builders and Andrew's process as they go through a project. And this house, similar to mine, like we don't know when it was built, but it could be as old as like 1800s, and the facade is super unique. So let's take a look inside.
These are our partners here, Baker Street Partners. We're renovating this property for them. They just purchased it a couple months ago, and we're already moving pretty quickly along with progress. So let's take a look. The original layout, if you saw from the front, there's actually two front doors. This front door took you inside this landing here, which was a staircase directly upstairs. This used to be a full wall, and that was where the unit split was. So this was one unit, upstairs was a second. You know, as we walk through, you'll see it's been rehabbed throughout the years. You can kind of see some remnants, you know, some old rehabs that were done like kind of shoddy throughout the years, but we'll call them out as we see them. Right now, this is gonna be the living area in the front with a nice half bath. This, we're gonna ledger a new steel beam up here so that the walkway through to the kitchen, we can do sort of a decorative archway that'll take you through to the back, which becomes kitchen dining back here.
There's some cool history here that we were talking about, like at my house. With these old homes, you're always trying to figure out the story, like when this stuff was built. And Andrew was pointing out how you can actually see this black outline on the neighboring brick wall that shows basically like a shed structure that used to be in the back portion here. At some point they ripped that down and they replaced it, but even this newer stuff up there is still really old. And then you have, you know, the new stuff that Andrew's doing, reframing this ceiling for insulation.
So what we're gonna turn this room into, entryway to the kitchen is over here. Right to your right when you walk in, there's gonna be this L bench and a nice like eating kind of breakfast nook, and then a full door here, so we get a full light door to just bring some more light into this room, and then a massive picture window here, which is going to have the sink centered right in the middle.
A house like this, you're really part of this like quilt of history. Tell me about these windows and how we bring those up to, you know, modern day.
It's going to be a challenge that we still have to figure out. You know, luckily the client has the same mindset, and I think you have to if you're going to renovate a property like this. Their mindset is we want to pay homage and respect to whoever originally built this and create something that it functions brand new, but it has the style of, you know, 1800. These are massive, beautiful custom windows. We don't want to change them. We looked into pricing some new ones that have that like adhere to historical standards. Each of these were $9,000 if we replace them. So that was a little bit more than the clients wanted to spend, understandably. So we're looking into refurbishing them. We're gonna put scaffolding on the front, take out each individual piece of glass, and then when it's just a shell, we, step one, refurbish the metal, and step two, put in new glass, recaulk.
What's your vision for this space? It's kind of an interesting space that has this lofted ceiling and the staircase up to the third floor.
This used to be just the kitchen living of the upstairs unit. So we gutted it out, we turned it into, this is technically an office since there's no exterior facing window. This is gonna be a transom window that gives light into the office. But we have this really dramatic, you know, this lofted area here that's in the front portion of the house with these beautiful windows. So what I think we're gonna do is do some built-in bookshelves all along this wall in very dramatic fashion, reaching up high, you know.
Yeah, get one of those cool ladders, like in libraries that slides side to side.
We just put one of those in,
That'll be sick.
You know, it was a liability with us playing around with it on site, but it came out really, really cool. So we're gonna see, you know, maybe this calls for that as well. And then, you know, some sort of featured Venetian plaster sort of situation to give it a little bit of texture and kind of some depth. Wall sconces along there to just make it a little bit more dramatic. Yeah, I mean, we're already picturing it with, you know, like the cigar couch and then like 2 chairs with the chessboard in the middle. So.
Gotta have the chessboard, that's classic.
Yeah, exactly. The cool part about this room is you have your own deck.
Yeah, you can see the skyline of Philly right there. So you're right in the action in a house like this.
So this is the master suite level. So you have your own private deck that's going to be off the master suite. And then this is where we had to get creative because we needed to fit landing for the stairs, landing at the top of the stairs that takes you into your bedroom, bathroom we had to fit.
Yeah, and we even got the door swings with the spray paint.
Yeah.
Make sure we don't miss any of these details.
Well, and actually before we sheetrock, we're gonna have every single door is gonna have which way it swings, because when we rough in our electric, you know, you just have
light switches.
Yeah, you want to be thoughtful about that stuff, and all of that happens before you even sheetrock, right? Like while you're roughing in all the mechanicals. So what was tough here was figuring out where to put the bathroom in a way that you can still fit closets and have enough room for your bedroom. Your bathroom now is in the front. You can see we added this cool curved wall feature here.
Yeah, that'll be awesome in the shower.
So as I said, it looks cool from the outside, but where it's really cool is inside your shower. It's this sort of, once again, like this house, it's all very dramatically put together. You have these really cool angles, these arches, these high ceilings, stuff that's kind of unexpected because it was rehabbed probably 5, 6, 7 times over the last, 200 years. So within this shower, we're kind of keeping that drama with this curved interior wall, and we're looking at some sort of thin vertical tiles that will really show the full extent of the curve.
Yeah, and I like that the curve is a little, maybe it's a stretch, but reminiscent of those 2 archways in the front of the house. Like arches are native typology, you might say.
Totally.
As I've talked a lot through my project about like Philadelphia row homes, the sidewalls are typically like double width brick. And these houses in general, and you can see it in this layout, like they're these narrow, kind of long houses that are kind of unique to Philadelphia, but some other northeastern cities. Tell me about this wall.
Yeah, so it's one of aforementioned surprises that we found when we did demo. When we took down the sidewall here, we took off our plaster and lath, and it was attached to 2x3 framing. There was no party wall, there was no brick. So when we took that down, we were looking at the back of their sheetrock, like the back of their sheet. So we saw a Romex electric wiring that was popped through and running to a blue box that was their outlet on their side. Naturally, like during demo, like some holes were poked in their drywall.
Yeah,
so
the occasional sledgehammer coming through, and the neighbors are like, what's going on?
Who's in my house? So, so we talked to them, and they're really, really sweet people. Obviously fixed that up at our cost. Then we framed a new wall and we insulated it, right? So like there's some insulation now between, because there was no insulation before. It was like plaster, 2x3 sheetrock, you're in their house. Now what we're gonna do is actually frame another wall in front of this. So we're treating this as the party wall now. So we at least have some depth. We'll have a new framed wall in front, and we can run our mechanicals and all that.
And the city typically requires a 1 hour fire separation between these houses, so like the whole block doesn't burn down before the fire department can get here.
Yeah.
And your double width brick typically takes care of that, but in this case, you get that rating from 2 layers of drywall. All right, so we got a good look at this cool historic property. I think anytime you're dealing with an old house, you open something up and it's a whole can of worms, and you have to change your plan. And now thinking about my house, I wish it was this one. This location's crazy. Cool architectural details here, but I have my own house to get back to. What do you think the process is gonna look like for me coming into this thing, GCing it myself with not a lot of experience and leaning on you a little bit? A little like roadmap of what that's gonna look like as far as like project timeline and subs and all that.
Well, step one is create a full budget, create a full estimate of expected hard costs. When I say create a schedule, like it's not like, hey, I think this is gonna take 7 to 8 months. It's, hey, we're gonna start with demo, which is gonna take a week, and then we're gonna need a day after demo to just get our ducks in a row for structural framing, and that's gonna take 2 weeks. So every single line item on the budget is gonna have a corresponding line item on the schedule, and then we're going to have our plan to execute the job. So step one is demo, which I know you've started. Complete demo, which you're almost done.
No,
right?
Actually, I resubmitted my. Well, you watched the last episode, right? So I just had my engineer over because we're rethinking everything. We're demolishing
that sidewall,
pretty much the whole house. The wood section,
So depending on what those plans look like for the structural framing, probably, we definitely will have some sort of structural support. So that's actually step one there is going to be like frame these structural supports before we take down the sidewall. Make sure that it's going to be, we can hold up what's there. And then it's demo that sidewall, and you're going to start with your structural framing. And then from there, once your structural framing is done and you have your box, we like to just create the box and then waterproof the box as quickly as possible. So for yours, it's going to be structural framing, and then roof. Windows we'll probably order before we even start construction. The goal is with that is to just create this waterproof box as soon as possible, and then you can work on the inside.
Sounds like we got a lot of work to do.
Yes, we do. Let's get to it.